What is going on, Governor? It's Chisgule here, and today we're going to play Ark of Osiris against, I think it's Kingdom 166. Wrath of Isin is the name of the alliance at 1 billion matchmaking rating. If you like Rise of Kingdoms videos where we battle it out in Ark of Osiris, then you should like and subscribe. We've been to the Elite 8, we've seen the upper end of play, and we've formed a crew to try to make it back to that upper tier of the Ark of Osiris League for Season 2. So like and subscribe if that's the sort of thing you're into, and let's get right into it. In this Ark of Osiris battle, we are rocking 20 members of the core Smash Squad, people who migrated in specifically to play Ark together, and we've got about 10 or so members of the kingdom originally, or people that are not even T5s, in order to say, like, hey, like, who will potentially be a substitute for the Ark team, and who actually might even make the main Ark team, because, like, look, Wolf's got some T5s, and they're pretty awesome. So in this Ark, we're doing a lot of testing. That testing is happening across 3 lanes, top, middle, and bottom. That's common to use that 3-lane strategy, and we actually had different people coming up with the strategies for each of those lanes. Well, technically I did mid and bottom, but those 2 lanes are totally different because the mid lane is all about getting the Ark. So in this Ark of Osiris, we make some blunders, and I would actually blame myself for most of those, and they're pretty fixable. One of the first of those is right at the start. We're not going to have enough people go to our altar, and literally, while we're in the middle of doing a tactic against them, where we rally their obelisk to send troops downfield, break the rally, and then attack one of their structures, they do the same thing to us, and we don't have any people at the altar to defend it, which is just like, oh my gosh, preventable. But that's on me. By the way, I was really happy with how everybody did in this Ark of Osiris battle, and this is going to be a very close Ark of Osiris, so this will be fun for you to watch. So, at the start of the fight, this is pretty common stuff. Everybody rallies their own obelisk to get troops to it quickly, because rallies move really fast, and that's a fast way to get the captains you want into that structure. At the same time, you frequently rally the enemy's obelisk to move troops down the field to get into position for whatever it is that you want to do, because that moves them, again, really, really quickly. So here, we've got folks that are on their way to these different structures and haven't arrived yet, and somehow I end up being the only one at the Sky Altar. Yikes. And I call it out, and you can see I'm looking around, and I'm like, where is everybody? So that's really a problem with the plan that I put together, and we'll fix that in the next time around. The other mistake that I make here is that I see that because I'm really not using a tanky army for this operation, I've got Mina Tsao. I try to go to the other side of the altar and hope that they're just going to, kind of blindly follow me and attack me rather than do what they're about to do, which is actually enter the altar. So it is a little frustrating that I was kind of spamming the button there and I missed the entry into the altar, and now they got a bunch of troops there, and this is a problem. It's not something I can actually deal with. We're going to have to rally it. And they are going to get the initial capture points for this structure, which is super frustrating. The other huge problem with this is that I can't teleport forward right now, which is a huge problem because I need to be rallying stuff. So this actually was a pretty big hiccup in the start of this plan, and I even just sent my troops into Gen X's rally to say, like, you know what? I just need to put my troops into structures so I can teleport up, and there we go. So now I teleport into the battlefield, not in love with the hiccup that we had at the beginning here, but again, a super fixable problem, and all the problems we had, I felt like were super fixable, which I feel really quite good about. The other thing I want to mention is that the other team had amazing sportsmanship. I got a bunch of messages from them after the Ark of Osiris battle saying, hey, great fight, really appreciate it, a lot of positive stuff. So I really appreciate their sportsmanship. This was an awesome group to play against. They played really, really well, and also were awesome sports, like A+. That was fantastic. So here I swarm with the rally using Ethelfled Barca to apply debuffs, and I don't even need to watch that. I've got my own rally going, and I've got someone sending the wrong troop type. So I cancel that, and we relaunch the rally. Again, this time it's going to fill up real fast, and this is in part because everybody was scrambling to get the altar on our side rather than joining my rally, which was just the correct thing to do. It was just the correct thing to do. So now that we have our altar, we're going to get the right captains in place. We're going to get everything set up to be okay. And, gosh darn it, our Shrine of War is under attack, which makes sense. You would expect it to be at the start, but we don't have enough people there. Again, this is a problem with the planning that I had done initially. And so I send a couple marches over in that direction, specifically focusing on fast-moving marches rather than specific troop types. And I also send a bunch of troops over, or at least I attempted to send a bunch of troops over, to support the altar, which is something I'll have to go and do later. I have one free march right now, which as a rally leader, it is generally good to have a free march to go and do whatever it is you need to do. As a rally leader, you want to be able to launch back-to-back rallies, and I sort of commit the mistake of not being able to do back-to-back rallies because we have so many qualified people to launch rallies. It's really quite remarkable. So that's another thing that I probably will fine-tune. We defend the Shrine of War, and now it's time to move up to swarm their altar, which is the structure we're going for. That's worth the most points by a long shot. Here, I'm rallying their Shrine of Life. Their defense is very solid. I should be bringing archers to this rally because they've got infantry there, but we're not really too focused on whether or not we capture that. In some ways, that's a distraction. Here you see I jump into a caravan and then away to try to just evade this army, leveraging the hasty departure talents, and I do escape from the army that was trying to ambush me on my way down to the desert altar. Zizhen is here to help swarm, and the rally's about to hit. Feel pretty good about the maneuvering that I had done there, and we are about to hit this structure as the rally hits. There we go. We abandon the little target outside of the structure and have our Minamoto swarm as well. Zizhen's going to start to swarm. Meatwad is here to swarm. We're here to party. We're here to party, and that's the way structures are taken in the high end of Ark of Osiris. You really need to have a swarm involved in order to pull that off successfully. I now retrieve my army from our obelisk since it seems pretty safe, and I actually have a couple marches of flex right now, so I launch a cavalry rally into the Shrine of Life. I really kind of under-leveraged, I feel like, my Edward Isongye combo, and I should have been using more of it. I do feel good about having tested lots of different combos, but I feel that Edward Isongye combo was very strong relative to the things that we could have been doing. And now I'm going to do some battling in the open field over here because, like, look, I'm already there. Those armies are going to swarm the structure anyways, and I already have an army in the structure, so I may as well try to clear these folks out a little bit if I can. I get a quick glance at all the rallies going on. My rally is about to march, and our calves are on the way. In my perfect world, we would do more swarming, but it is worth mentioning that the split we have of top, middle, and bottom is 11 players, 9 players in the center lane, and 10 players in my lane and bottom lane. So we have one less player than the top lane, and we have sort of underinvested a little bit in the center lane. I'm not sure that we will continue to do that. We might go back to a 10-10-10 split, which seems pretty good to me. We had a little bit of trouble getting arcs, which I think is because we undercommitted to the center lane. Here we've got a rally now hitting the altar. We've got some folks that are there. I send some troops, but I don't think any way I'm going to make it to the desert altar in time. This is going to be a close operation where I'm going to try to swap out my troops that are there. We've got a Constantine at the helm defending, and Constantine is pretty amazing for defending a structure. I would argue that Wu Zetian is a better primary, and we see that play out in really remarkable ways. I mean, she just stalls so incredibly well in Ark of Osiris. It is quite remarkable. It is quite remarkable. So we're making our way over to this structure, and we leave the structure maybe a second or two earlier than we should have, and we're not able to get into it. I don't think it would have made a difference, but it was pretty close there. And so at this point, we're now going to have to actually rally the structure to try to take it back. I also, more than I should have, sent commanders that I use for rallies into other people's rallies. And again, that was because we had so many qualified rally leaders with all the right gear and with all the right builds and combinations that, I don't know. I think we were a little more lax than I would like about who leads what rallies, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel good about trying lots of different things in the off season, right? Like that's what the off season is for. It's not for winning, it's for testing. The off season is, at least in my opinion, it's for testing. So we've got a Wu Zetian in place to do some defense. We still don't have access to Wu Zetian, so I'm glad some folks migrated in that have her. I generally have some really strong feelings about the level of power of Wu Zetian and the fact that she is an exclusive commander, especially with the next KVK coming around the corner. I mean, it's a borderline unfair advantage to the kingdoms that have her, but like, I don't know. Folks migrate around. We're going to have plenty of Wu Zetians for our KVK. And hopefully she shows up in Card King soon to level the playing field, because we called that shot that she was busted good way before she actually became available, and like, she's busted good. Enough about Wu Zetian. Here you can see Wu Zetian flexing like a complete honey badger. We're going to drop troops into the structure. They're cavalry. We sent cavalry because they can get there quickly. We're not too concerned about what troop type with a Wu Zetian primary. Yet another reason why Wu Zetian is amazing. More troops are arriving. We're checking out the commanders that are in there. And it's worth mentioning that the Wu Zetian in this structure at the moment is not even expertise. I think it's a 5-5-5-3 Wu Zetian, level 60. And the Wu Zetians that we have in our alliance are on their way to getting expertise pretty rapidly. So we are able to defend this structure successfully. I would argue very heavily on the back of the strength of Wu Zetian. And we then move forward to support a rally on the far end of the field. Now you've noticed that we're really only looking in our lane, and that is one of the advantages of having a lane-oriented strategy, and to have a series of Discord channels where you're only chatting with your lane. We're 100% focused on the thing we need to do, and there is a point at which we need to support the Ark of Osiris, and we go and do that. But overall, I liked being able to focus more heavily where we were. We do have a little captain error over here where the structure is getting hit and we have the wrong captain in play. We do change that around. It is really important to mention that you get your titled officers correctly set for each lane, right? So like whoever is going to be able to manage your captains, that is your titled officers and, you know, the head of the alliance, the leader. Here we're going to swarm this structure, but it's just not going to work. It's definitely not going to work. So we had a couple titled officers in the bottom lane. We had a couple titled officers in the top lane. That way there were multiple people who were watching the captains and could swap them around, and everybody's on voice to talk about those changes. So at this point, I'm feeling pretty good about how Ark of Osiris is going, and it feels like we're very much in the driver's seat. However, we do start to lose that grip and that control. We're up by only 5,000 points, which is actually not a huge lead, and they are going to close that gap after, of course, we score this arc. So we score the second arc, which was pretty awesome. I actually think we should not have scored this arc in hindsight. I think we should have just held it. I think holding it would have been a better play, and you'll see why. That's easy to say in hindsight and hard to know in the moment. We're defending multiple structures at the same time here, and one thing that I noticed we had an issue with is that we would go very aggressive, but then not have enough to support our own defenses. And it could be that with only 10 people on our side, and 10 is, I mean, it seems like a reasonable number of people, but like we shouldn't have perhaps been as aggressive as we were going, for instance, for their obelisk, which really had no strategic value. It does hold up a lot of their marches, but I feel like the same number of marches focused on the highest strategic value might have been better. I'm a little torn there. Here I send out some weak marches back to my city and bring more troops into the structure to reinforce. And really, like, the lane role is rinse and repeat. Like, you're rallying stuff. In this case, I'm going to rally something else. Oh, somebody already rallied the target. Cool. You're rallying stuff, and like you just keep doing it until you capture the structure, and you swarm with the rally where you can, which is exactly what we're doing up top there. I did notice that my, and this was a good play. Like normally open field battles don't make any sense, but my Ethelflaed gets ambushed on the way over to support stuff, which was a smart play on their part. I'm actually kind of surprised that they noticed her on her way over. And we are on our way to support the Desert Altar. I don't think she'll actually make it with any reasonable amount of health. A couple other announcements while we're watching the middle part of this Ark of Osiris battle. Our KVK announcement popped. So we've got 5 days for folks to migrate into the kingdom. And at the conclusion of those 5 days, I believe the kingdom will lock for migration. So if you are 35 million power and under, now's a really good time to get into Kingdom 75. I'll add that we've got room for some 35 million power players in the Wolf Alliance itself, the main alliance that the Smash Squad is in. So you should seriously consider joining that. And we are taking a few more T5s. As soon as we announced yesterday that, like, hey, we're getting our last kind of T5s before, well, not before the lock, but if you saw my video yesterday, I talked about migration. We had a bunch of kind of 70 million power T5s reach out and say, like, hey, I want to talk about this. So we're seeing if we can get some of them in. But we are still talking with those folks. They are still migrating over. We probably have room for a couple more, like 70 million power, bunch of dead troops, T5 players that like have some good commanders. Come on in. Water's fine. Water's fine. Shameless plug over for joining the Smash Squad. We're on our way now to the Sky Altar, which is once again in trouble. And I'm at this moment in time wishing that all those marches that were with me rallying the obelisk were instead at the Sky Altar to support what was going on here. We get into the structure now to defend it. And we did end up losing the Shrine of War, which we're going to rally to take back. Abe is leading that rally, so we just hop into his rally with some archers to go and support that. I really do wish we had, by the way, like at least 2 tabs of presets. Like I would use 3 tabs of army presets easily. Because as a rally leader, I've basically got the 5 presets I need for launching rallies. And like, okay, a couple open field marches while I'm in those rallies. And then I need a whole bunch of presets for things to like go fill other people's rallies with, because rally leaders should really not be using the rally lead commanders for anything other than leading rallies. So you always have that flexibility. This is why you see me using Richard I and Scipio as a secondary. P.S. They rally our obelisk here, which was pretty funny. I drop a bunch of troops in to defend it. And I'm pretty sure our rally on the Shrine of War is going to go swimmingly and be totally fine. But yeah, I'm using Richard I and Scipio because CPO can bring extra troops, and Richard I is an infantry commander. He's got some extra march speed, so he can make his way over pretty quickly. That's not in his skills, but in his talents, by the way. It could be that we should just be using 2 commanders that have extra troop capacity for filling structures. That way we can just bring more troops to the party, because troops are not an issue for us. We just want to bring as many as possible. I don't know. That seems like a micro optimization we should be thinking about. Like, should we use to either reinforce rallies or to fill structures? Just like, it doesn't even matter what kind of commander. We'll just bring CPO and Freddy, for instance, because both of them have elevated troop capacity. That might be a thing. At this moment in time, the Ark is getting away, and that's kind of an issue. We're getting toward the tail end of the match. There's 17 minutes remaining. They've got the Ark. They're going to cap it, and there will be one more Ark, which means this is going to be a close matchup. We need to successfully defend some of these structures, which is why I divert some of my troops to support the Sky Altar. We need to hold our altars if we're going to win this battle, and we need to either prevent them from getting the Ark, or we need to score the next Ark. At this moment in time, we end up supporting the structure by swapping out the small number of infantry we had remaining, swapping in a full march of cavalry, and then using the infantry to debuff the enemies that were there. We also have some combat going on at the Desert Altar. We've got a rally there, and we're swarming with it, which is pretty exciting. And you can see 2 more rallies going by, one of which is a counter rally. I have really mixed feelings about counter rallies, by the way. I don't know that counter rallies are what I want to be doing in Ark. I feel like we're better off just swarming stuff, quite frankly. I feel like we're much better off just swarming stuff. If you're going to counter rally, you needed to notice the rally, like, the second it left the player's city, so that you're actually attacking it or launching when you're en route, or when it's en route. All right, so Sky Altar is getting kind of beat up. We're just swarming it. We're like, you know what? Just swarm it. There's not that many troops in here. We take it back, but it did interfere with our point gain, so it was a successful play on their part. Here you can see me sending some, I was going to say junk, but like not primary commanders to fill a rally. I should have been doing more of that all throughout. And because I don't have a flex spot available right now, I can't actually launch a rally on anything. I can't really do very much. I take a quick pulse on my troops and start sending some of them back to refill things. And now I've got kind of an interesting call to make. We're going for their altar, but should we go all in on the Ark of Osiris? I encourage a not small number of people from our lane to divert to the center at this point, because we really do need to capture the Ark, or prevent them from capturing the Ark, I think. It's close. This is a close fight. This is like an Ark of points level of closeness in terms of the scoreboard here. So we are sending a few more marches out to just fill structures, and we also are on our way toward the Temple of Osiris. We're on our way toward the Temple of Osiris, and I do wonder, like, if I have been under-indexing on the number of people that should be there. Here we've got a rally on the Desert Altar. It is going to be successful, which is a pretty huge position for us. You can see on the map right now, we've got all four of the altars. Honestly, we could have just folded in onto those altars and held them, and that would have been game. And that might have been a good strategy, just take everybody out of middle and go to the altars. It's kind of a game of chicken, though. Like, if we left the middle empty, then they could also focus on the altars too, which would be less than amazing. We reinforced the structure briefly. We are nearby to this one. And we're looking pretty good from an altar standpoint. However, Sky Altar is in trouble again. This is a common problem that we had, at least on our side. And I'd be eager for your thoughts on like how we address this. But we, I think, spread ourselves a little thin across all the things that we wanted to be doing. And we might have been just better off focusing. So here we can see that the folks in 166 are really, I think, dominating the center area, and they are very likely to run away with the Ark of Osiris and score a bunch of points. At this moment in time, I wasn't sure how critical that would be to our success or failure, and so I'm in the middle, battling it out, trying to weaken some of the folks that are there. Really, the best thing to be using for that would have been more AoE, which, like, I didn't have the best marches for this. At this point, I'm just trying to send the fastest marches I can to do anything at all rather than, like, the most amazing marches for, hitting 5+ targets, which is a thing. In the next patch, you're going to be able to pick up the Ark of Osiris by tapping on the Ark icon. I didn't realize at the start of this that, like, oh yeah, that patch isn't here yet. It's coming, like, today when you see this video. I guess tomorrow, technically. But they're getting away with the Ark, and the score is really close. We're up by 4,500 points, and this Ark is, I'm pretty sure, worth more than 4,500 points. So we've kind of got a problem here. We've kind of got a problem. We own, however, 3 altars right now, which is a very good situation, and we're on our way to having all 4, which is pretty good. So we're actually much more secure than meets the eye. And I've now got my marches by the Ark of Osiris, and I'm trying to just stall it, which I guess is only a value play if you end up actually preventing them from scoring the Ark, which is not a thing we're going to be able to do. But we are going to do some pretty sweet wizardry in here, identifying who the Ark carrier is and hitting them. Like, I feel pretty good about our ability to have done that. We're going to take out the Ark carrier, I think, a couple times here and stall them. It's not going to be enough to stop them from scoring this Ark, however. It is not going to be enough to stop them from scoring this Ark. Spoiler alert. And we probably should have invested a little more effort into trying to pick the Ark up ourselves. I don't know. It was a little frantic. I'm not going to lie. It was a little frantic. So we're in the middle right now. We've got 2, I think maybe 3 marches committed to that activity. One just got defeated. We've got an Alexander the Great and Charles Martel that just got defeated. And a 3rd march is on the way, which is going to be able to do some amount of stalling. But again, not going to be enough to stop the number of players that they've committed to this task. With that said, we own 3 altars, and our score is breaking away at this point, which was a good situation. And now we own 4 altars. The structure game is super real. The structure game is super real. We're on our way over. We're on an intercept course here. We've identified who the carrier is, so we go to smash them. And tempting to launch a rally here on this structure. I do launch a rally, but we don't have enough time for me to actually get there and hit it. So we take out the carrier one last time. Our army gets obliterated, and there's so many folks from 166 that they're just going to cap this thing. But we're looking at the points per minute here, and it's looking really good. And we've got this Ark in the bag. At this point, we're not near enough to anything to actually do anything meaningful. So the last 2 minutes of the battle, we're just sort of debriefing a little bit what went down. So overall, I feel really happy with how this Ark of Osiris battle went. We're going to review the stats in a minute when the match actually ends and when those pop up. I felt really good about the contributions of the folks that were from Kingdom 75 originally. And we are still bringing in more, 70 million power, full T5 players that we can have, 30 of those for every arc that we do. But I feel pretty great about the team that is here, the folks from Wolf and that were in the kingdom before we even got here, and feeling pretty good about where we're headed with the Ark team in general. So if Ark of Osiris is something you're really serious about, consider joining up to play with us. With all that said, the match ends. Well played by Wrath of Isin 166! Really enjoyed the fight, and again, appreciate your sportsmanship. Congrats to Dr. Wen, who was the MVP with a solid 116 score. Quite strong. I don't know how they choose the commander that they show with you, but I'm pretty sure that I got who was it? Centurion as the commander when I was an MVP one time. Anyways, if you look at the score here, we under-indexed on provisions. That's something that we need to get a better look at. We had 2 teleports that were unused. That's something we need to get a better look at. Our kills were really good. And our healing was fine. Overall, we played the structure game, which you can see was how this played out. 33,500 points for us from structures, and they had 20,000 points for structures. So that occupation score was pretty crucial. That was our focus, and it seemed to play out pretty well. With that said, we did have a pretty even split across the lanes. So I think they went more in on the Ark strategy, and I think if they had actually captured all of the Arks, it would have been a totally different ballgame. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like and subscribe. I'm actually not sure if I should keep making Ark videos during the off season. Is this a thing you want to see? Let me know, and until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.